Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Resurging Professor's Lab series. This episode, and also probably the next one, because this one's likely going to get split into two, because you guys had a lot of questions. Most of these are going to be in relation to the game mechanics specifically. So we're not going to get into the questions about a lot of like plot threads or anything just yet. We're going to stay focused on a lot of the questions as to the game, how it's played, why we do certain things the way that we do, and some of those answers might get a little bit long-winded, so we'll probably break this one up. But let's get into it. Jamel Commodore wants to know, for Pokemon like Pendleton and Girafarig, are they just often forgot about, or would it just make things more complicated to constantly say what they are doing? Specifically mentioning the Mayburn episodes where we don't talk about the research team Pokemon being gone until the players ask. The long and short of it is that the players usually forget to ask about their thoughts or opinions on the subject matter, and so do I. So you're dead on the money. It's not that we don't care what they're doing, it's that at any given time there's like 60 creatures that we have to be thinking about the whereabouts of, and specifically to sort of exonerate the players on that, they don't have their character sheets in the same place that we have their team. So Pendleton, Ona, all those guys, there's so many things to keep track of, and similar to Girafarig, that when the players don't have a character sheet in front of them to remind them, make sure you know what these guys are doing, they forget. And when they forget, and I forget, we just go with what makes sense so that things can keep moving. So them being accidentally left behind in Mayburn was just that. It was an accident. They got left behind. Hopefully that clears things up and isn't just overly brutal. Moving on, hopefully I say your name correctly. I apologize if I don't. Shiroe Miyazaki. I always have a hard time following the typing of the Pokemon and the attacks. Sometimes Surf does water damage, sometimes it's bludgeoning. Also some attacks like Chicky Baby's Solar Beam doing initial fire damage, and not every Solar Beam is the same. Why did you choose to go this route with damage types, and is it easy to keep track of all this? Is there a way for us viewers to better follow what typing the Pokemon are and what they can do? Bookworm has a similar question, saying, I assume that the Pokemon abilities and moves aren't standardized. One Pokemon's Solar Beam can be different from another. How do you decide how this works? Is there a system? Is it more improvised and guided? These in particular seem to be gated towards the Port Thalo gym. I always try to make it obvious for you guys and the players when something's not functioning the way you would expect. Totally fair question. The short answer is I'm not a game designer. I just pretend to be one on the internet. But a lot of it comes from a balancing perspective. For something like Chicky Baby's Solar Beam, I did that specifically for Jordan. Jordan likes big damage. He likes the high risk, high reward attacks. So for Chicky Baby, if you go for Solar Beam and you charge up on that turn and then you miss, that sucks. You wasted 2 rounds of combat to do nothing. So to soften the blow for him, when he picks the target, he gets to do a little bit of damage, but that damage isn't affected by resistances or immunities. It just happens. It's not much, it's like 2 or 3 d4, but it's a guaranteed little bit of damage because if he misses, he's doing that 2 or 3 d4 over the course of 2 turns. So I did that for Jordan. As for why certain things do damage types and certain things don't, things that roll a lot of damage against the players, I typically will neutralize the risk of like outright murder and death by saying, oh, it's bludgeoning, it's piercing, it's slashing, because those can't be super effective. Specifically for Port Thalo, because I'm pretty sure that's what both of these questions are in regards to. Port Thalo's gym is tough. It is very, very difficult on purpose. If everything in that gym was doing damage that you would expect it to do, none of the players would have made it through. Now that would have been exciting to say, oh wow, it's a gym that they're like not ready for. But at the same time, I wanted the gym to be fun and challenging, not annoying and impossible. So a lot of the times when I make those decisions, like if Surf is going to do some crazy amount of damage, like 6d8, if it's water damage, most of the team members are not going to survive. Now, this also goes in the other direction for Pokemon on the tots that, like Haka, who has water absorb. you need ways to hit everything. So I don't want somebody to just have a nice casual stroll through a difficult gym just cuz. So some stuff in Port Thelo's gym hit really hard but did bludgeoning damage. Other stuff didn't hit quite as hard but could be super effective. So that was the route that we went for that. Hopefully that kind of clears it up. But as for the questions of is it more improvised or guided, every one of those decisions is intentional, I promise you. Some stuff in the game does just get improvised and ends up complicating everything. That one in particular, very much on purpose. Moving on, Blaze Blade XD. What would you say is a good way to progress Pokemon's strength growths in a way that would keep every player at around the same level? I'm thinking about starting my own Pokemon campaign. Do it! But I'm worried that I won't be able to keep things even with everybody. So this is the eternal question that I've had in my brain since we started this campaign. Your players are effectively Beastmaster Rangers with like 60 different beast companions by the time they get to where the tots are at. So it's really hard to make sure that something doesn't fall behind. But here's the thing that you need to realize. That's not your problem to solve, that's the players. I'm calling out CJ's team here a little bit. Take a look at things like Bark, things like Wimpimble, Slurp. They never get used in combat, so they fall behind. But you have to use them in fights to get them stronger. But you feel like the world is getting stronger around you, or at least you're seeking out more dangerous situations. So there's never a time to bring these guys out, right? That's for the player to figure out. Take a look at like Milo's team and Phoebe's team, and Bentley's as well. Let's be fair. They do a great job of cycling through, making sure that everybody has some time in the sun, so to speak. Not to make it as dark as possible, but if your players are constantly catching new things and never using them, that's not your job to scale them up. They will fall behind. I've tried a couple things in the past that I don't do anymore, like doing a stat squish. Although we did do one pretty recently, but that was for my own sanity and unrelated to low-level Pokemon, where I tried to bring those unused Pokemon up to that level and bring the heavy hitters down so that they were a lot closer together. It didn't matter. These guys always still got picked first to go, which makes sense. You're in dangerous situations. You want to bring Pokemon that you know you're not going to have to worry about. It is what it is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But at the end of the day, that's not something that you necessarily have to worry about. That's something the players have to figure out. As for keeping the players even with each other, same deal. I don't think you have to worry about that. If they want something stronger, they can train their Pokemon. You know, take some time, put some effort in, and go crazy. Moving on! Benjamite. What is your design process with making towns and cities? I popped into Devin's world building stream and dropped this little bomb on him, and I will put the link to this video in the description box below, so please check it out. The channel is far bigger than we will probably ever be. But Dael Kingsmill, aka Monarch's Factory over on YouTube, I bumped into this video on accident, just completely out of nowhere. I was watching some Matt Colville stuff. She does such a good job of explaining the method I was already using but didn't have a way to put into words that I'm just going to link that video and say, go check this out, because this is pretty much what I do. It's very close. If not, go check out the world building streams we did back in the day. It wasn't even that long ago. It was maybe a couple months. That is literally my world building process. That's it, if you want to see it. We'll probably do some more of those in the future. The condensed version of the Dael Kingsmill video, which again, I encourage you to go watch. I will put the link in the description. Has a very funny acronym, but I'm just gonna spell it out and you guys can figure it out for yourselves. The short version, figure out the location of the city or the town, whatever you want to do. Come up with a social structure. How do the people see each other? The example she'll use in her video, which again, please go watch, is a swamp town. So the wealthy people are built literally above the poor slums, and they are built into the swamp. So their homes are probably under like a foot of water at any given time. It's miserable down there, but the wealthy have built their houses up. So there's your social dichotomy. The wealthy literally are looking down on the poor, and the poor are aspiring to rise to that level. Social structure. Politics. The wealthy are probably going to be hoping for a leader, a political leader, that is keeping them wealthy and potentially keeping other people down because there's only so much high ground in the town. Economic functions. No city on Earth can function autonomously. It can't happen. You need to import stuff, and to do that, you have to export stuff. You need an economy. That comes into play a lot in the TOTS game, but it's usually in the background. Every city needs to import something and should export something else. Whether it's bringing in wheat, exporting bread, or beer, whatever it is you're doing, that'll inform you a lot about a town. Take a look at Fola, right? Fola's the capital city. They export power, literally like energy and power. So they're all about this massive reactor that sends power to pretty much the entire region. You've got Ambercrag. They import materials. They export custom-made Pokeballs, works of metal, or that they then send off themselves. Every town has something they're bringing in and something they're sending out. So that's your economics. Religious organizations depends entirely on the setting of the campaign. The TOTS don't have any like overt religious organizations that they've interfaced with, which totally fine. And military presence. Pretty much everywhere needs to have some level of military, no matter how much they want to be peaceful. You need peacemakers, you need guards, police, whatever your town, whatever your setting calls for. You need somebody keeping the peace. Not everybody can live in a utopia where no crime ever happens ever. So, social structure, politics, economics, religion, military. SPERM. Do the math. Moving on! Hyper Dummy. I have a pretty simple question, but did Nipsey turn into a bug poison type because of the seed, or did they stay a bug grass type? I have a very simple answer. Nipsey is still grass bug. The purple striped seed is an item with a mechanical benefit that is pretty synonymous with Nipsey, but has not altered their typing in any way. It just adds a little bit of poison damage to their attacks. Nice and easy. A couple of you would like to know, is there an Elite Four and a champion for the region? Will we meet them or any former members? Are the other region's league trainers the same? If not, will we ever meet some or former members? I'm not sure how to tackle the last two bits of that, but I will answer as much as I can. No, there is not a traditional Elite Four for the region. Yes, there is a Pokemon League, but I don't have an Elite Four, because I found that concept weird that every region would have an Elite Four that would function exactly the same. But the Laris region does have a Pokemon League. It's on the map. The map's been posted to Twitter and a few other places, but that is a thing that is there. There is a Pokemon League. Question about the champion. Yes, there is a champion. Their name was Blue, and they're somewhere. They just haven't been seen in a long time, but nobody knows who they are. If the players decide that regional champion is a title they'd like for themselves, then we'll probably see how the league functions and what being a champion means. But until then, moving on! So far we've seen mostly regional forms, but are there any Pokemon native to the Laris region? Will we ever encounter any? This is the most I've really thought about it. Titania and Manny are technically Laresian. They are variants. There's been a few Pokemon adjacent creatures in the series so far. As for will we see like 100% new Pokemon, it depends on what your definition of see is. You've heard a bunch, but we haven't seen any. So maybe. I'm not gonna count it out. A lot of you also want to know, but specifically Jackson Woods, does trade evolution exist in the game, and how is the Pokemon League gonna work? Pokemon League, see above. Trade evolution, not in the traditional sense, no. Trading, like if CJ were to catch Desmond and trade him to somebody, he's not gonna get a Gengar. That's a thing that I think is based on the video game aspect of it, encouraging you to interact with the other version. And those mechanics don't translate well to D&D, so I don't interface with them. Carrying on, Tristan. What, other than Pokemon, are some of your primary inspirations for world building? I take a lot of inspiration from movies and music. The setting for Laris is literally just a grafted version of my original D&D setting, which is why a lot of the towns have like vastly different ecosystems. But you kind of need that in a Pokemon setting. You need somewhere they can go that has snow so you can catch ice types. You need that weird, ominous desert that has your fire, ground, and rock types, and places you can go. You need a good ghost town where the ghosts are. So a lot of it's just inspired from that world, which is inspired from movies, music, TV, stuff like that. I take a ton of inspiration on what the region looks like and its history from like actual historical events and locations, because I'm a huge history nerd and I love that stuff. But it's usually a good jumping off point for me, to say like, okay, if this is something that can happen in the real world, how can we make that more fantastical? And just kind of going from there. But movies, TV shows, pop culture, they are so infused in the region that if you took them all away, there wouldn't be much left. It's just kind of a way that things worked out. Gabriel wants to know, similar to the league champion posted above. I don't know if you've seen this comment before, but what are your plans with Red since Blue is/was champion? Is Red gonna still be at Mount Coronet, or is there much grander plans for Red? This might be like a super disappointing answer for you, which is why I've kind of held off interfacing with the question in the past, but what better time and place to do it than now? There are no plans for Red. I don't intend to use Red in any way. There is no Mount Coronet in the Laris region, and this is the Laris region story. So you won't see Red. I'm sorry, it won't happen. Blue still is the champion. Blue was the last named champion. We'll get into that if we get into it, but the name Blue was just a nod to the first Pokemon game that I ever played. Joel played Red, I played Blue. So that was why I did that. It's just an alias that the champion used, but we're not going to see Red. We're not going to see a Mount Coronet. Because one, I feel like those stories have already been told. Red has been in so many other formats of TV shows and such. I don't feel I need to put them in this game. But this isn't Red or Blue's story, it's the story of the Tots in the Laris region. Alright, and that's going to do it for part 1 of the more mechanics-based questions. There are still so very many to go, so I'm going to cut this one here, and I'll join you in a couple days for part 2 of this one. But stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching these. Thank you all so much for your questions. They have been lovely and very fun to think about and come up with satisfying answers for. But stay tuned for more game mechanics, and then we'll start getting into sort of like story and plot stuff. But until then, auf Wiedersehen!